the home of 2022 aspirants.
Hello once again, and karibu to this episode of the Candidates Hub Show. So very glad today to have someone that is not running for office, but a key opinion shaper in this great conversation that we continue to have as a country. Glad to have Mr. Jeremiah Wahome with us, and we shall look at diverse issues on governance, leadership, and politics. Karibu sana Jeremiah, and kindly introduce yourself, perhaps tell us what you do.
Thank you very much. As you have heard, my name is Jeremiah Wahome. Let me start with saying that I am a church elder with the Presbyterian Church of East Africa. Other than that, I am an environmentalist by profession. And in my work, I normally engage with the communities in the extractive sector and also deal with legal and governance issues in the sector.
Wow. That is interesting. So these have been fear that professionals, the middle class, and elders in different capacities do not engage themselves in various conversations, dialogue that affect our people. Why is it so? And do you think it is time that we started having a more inclusive conversation about the issues affecting our country?
Well, I think it is true that, for example, church elders or church leaders, they normally don't involve themselves in political issues or governance issues. Same case with professionals, for example, those who are employed by government. So, for example, if you look at the church sometimes seems to shy off from engaging in political issues. But at the same time, because churches are dealing with people who also engage in politics, so it is almost impossible to sit at the periphery as a church and decide that we are not going to engage in political issues. So there are many issues that we can deal with. There are different approaches that we can engage with as a church in politics. And also now when it comes to professionals, and let me speak for those who work for the government, there is a big disconnect because you find that when it comes to politics, people do politics so that they can join government. When they join government, they go to work with professionals they are with. But these professionals are the technical people in government. So again, there is a big disconnect because, for example, if you want to talk about infrastructural development that is being spearheaded by a certain government, headed by a certain political regime, there is nobody who understands these projects better than those professionals working in those ministries. However, now the challenge comes where these technical professionals, you find that they are not authorized to talk to the media, for example. So you find that people who talk about these government initiatives are the cabinet secretaries, principal secretaries, and other senior directors. But in most cases, you find that they are not the technical experts.
There's a church over the weekend. There's some leaders who went to a church and they were not given a platform to address Mwananchi. And it made us now start a conversation. Is it time that we stopped politicking in churches and maybe look for people in other gatherings other than the church?
Well, first, I would say that for any politician to think that you will get votes in the church, I think that is the wrong platform. However, these people in the church are the same ones. We want them to engage in elections. We want their votes. So how do we associate church and politics? So the issue here is, to a great extent, I agree with the church leaders when they say they are not going to allow politicians to play politics in churches. Because the route that politics take, for example, in our country, the language itself, you do not want to associate it with your church. And I'm sure you have also heard that politicians, the tools that they use, for example, is character assassination. They also demonize their opponents. So as a church leader, you are not going to welcome a politician to start demonizing other politicians in their pulpit. However, again, I would say that that decision by the church is also inconsistent with the reality on the ground, because the reason why I would summarize and say that the church probably has come to a realization that they are not able to tolerate politics in the church. But is it the right time? The issue of time is because we are going to elections and we know the language that is used. But is the church running away from politics? Probably yes, and that is going to be the big mistake, because the church must have a role to play when it comes to politics and elections.
So if you look at the way we've grown politically as a nation, yes, there's improvement as far as our democracy or our democratic space is concerned. But if you look at the way we vote, I think we still vote in a very tribal. Our political parties are quite tribal. We still vote for a certain class or group of people. We still look down upon women leadership and things like those. I believe there's a role that the church elders, that the professionals, and all the other leaders in our community can take to promote that. How do we ensure that our political parties change or embrace the things that we've just talked about?
Well, how to change our political parties, or even how we practice our politics in this nation, is going to take a while for us to say that we have grown or matured politically.
But how long is that?
Because, let me tell you, because you find that the political challenges that our forefathers talked about, for example, in 1965, you find that they are the same challenges that we are talking about today. Probably other challenges have emerged, but it's because of the change of time. However, when you talk about tribalism in our politics, this has been there before. If you go back to history, you discover there are political parties there before that were associated, for example, with the Coast Province. Others were associated with Nyanza Province. And to a greater extent, these were tribal political parties. Then after the reemergence of multi-party democracy, initially there was a trial. You find that KANU was a national party. There came Ford. Actually, there were almost just two political parties then. But because political parties and political leaders here are about selfish interest, then you find that the elites end up registering their own political parties so that they can run away with their voting bloc. And they translate it as, this is what we own, and this is what we are coming on the table with.
They use that to negotiate.
Yes, so they use that to negotiate. So you find that in this country, whereas we have so many tribes, the biggest problem that is facing us is that even when we talk about tribal voting, it is not all tribes that are actually involved in this tribal voting. So even when you say our politics is tribal, this ideology, whereas we have, I think, 44 tribes, this ideology would actually involve probably 10 major tribes. So what do we do with the others? So for me, I think the best government that we can have in place is a government that is going to first promote and empower these small tribes, which they feel marginalized, they feel disadvantaged. So every time we have an election period, so politicians start arousing the emotions of these small tribes. So these small tribes now start raising this issue of tribalism. We need a government that is going to take care of our issues. So as early as yesterday, you would hear Masai, the Ma community, saying we need a government that is going to take care of our economic activities. Then another community says the same somewhere. Then the others, the bigger tribes, now they say, for us to do that, then you need to support us. You see, now that is how we practice this tribalism. But before elections, in this country, there is nothing like tribalism. So what are the churches supposed to do? For example, are we able to use the church as a communication vessel? Yes, we can. Are we able to use the church as a candidate of advocacy against tribalism? Yes, we can. Why am I saying this? Because, for example, there are churches, we say that they are cosmopolitan. Why are they cosmopolitan? Because those people who worship in those churches comes from almost all tribes. So there they know nothing like tribalism. And this is a character or an aspect that churches can advocate.
There's a conversation that we've had as a country for the last couple of years, the handshake and the BBI. I think we are again back to court, back to Supreme Court, because of what happened. As an elder, do you think BBI was good for this country?
There is a reason why the president and the former prime minister thought it was important to sit down. And of course, I know there is a school of thought that the main purpose was to bring the former prime minister to government. But I would like to give the two some benefits of doubt or my opinion, because I have listened to them. And I should also exercise some trust and when you listen to what people say. So these two gentlemen, whereas they were the main political competitors, one of them believed that he has won the election, and the other one believed that the win was stolen from him. So what do you do? And these are two buffaloes fighting. Who is suffering? Is the people. So for me, what I see much, and probably is a credit that I give to the two, is when they came together, they dropped their personal interests for the sake of the mwananchi in this country. And I want to believe that every Kenyan should understand that before that meeting, things were chaotic. For those of us who worked within the CBD, you will not be able to work because of tear gas. So the handshake, as it is called, the first thing it did is to cool political temperatures. Because if there was no handshake, let me tell you that we would have continued in a political competition environment from 2018, 2019 to date. But you see now, it is now that we are realizing higher elections are coming. So handshake cooled the political temperatures. And you know what happens when the political temperatures in this country are cool. People are able to go on with their businesses in peace. People are able to interact in peace. Many things happen. So according to me, when BBI talked about inclusivity, I looked at it from this perspective, that our politics are tribal-based. So if you have like 7 major tribes in a given political party, then only 2 tribes have the president and the deputy. Then you have won the elections. So what will stop the others from now start bargaining their share? And you see in politics, when now politicians start bargaining their share, whereas you are saying they're in the same government, that now starts destabilizing the government. Yes, they start destabilizing the same government. So if you have tribe A giving the president, tribe B giving the deputy president, what do you do with the political kingpins from tribe C, D, E, and F? And for me, inclusivity was not about now bringing the opposition to government. For me, inclusivity was about now accommodating those other tribes that actually have contributed towards formation of that government. And we have seen this. What happened during the Kibaki and the 2002 government? See, they formed the government, but 2 years after, there was nothing. They started fighting all together. So there was no inclusivity. For me, BBI was supporting inclusivity from that perspective. Then it was also trying to take care of the losers by bringing them on board. So for me, BBI was a good thing for this country. The only challenge is probably it was not well articulated. When somebody goes to court against BBI, then now judges, they have a right to make their own decision. And we have, again, to respect the rule of law, the independence of judiciary. The only challenge I had with BBI, but of course it could not have made me to vote no, is because back in my mind, I felt that the task force went beyond its mandate on the issues of constituencies, because it is very clear, and we have the law that is very clear how to come up with new constituencies and who to delineate those constituencies. So at this point where they even said where those constituencies should be, I think there they went beyond their mandate.
There's a serious, again, debate going on in this country now. And most politicians and most presidential candidates are having a candid conversation with the voters about the economy of this country. What is your take on that?
Well, thank you. I think this is the most interesting debate that we are having. But unfortunately, when I listen to that debate this far, I do not think it has a solution to economic revitalization or economic empowerment of our people. So when you look at some of these terms that are very well used, like Mama Mboga. Mama Mboga, if she keeps depending on other Mama Mbogas to purchase her goods, then she is not going to improve economically. The Mama Mboga requires the rich. And I keep asking, how do you promote a Mama Mboga economically, if we take it literally? A Mama Mboga who sells 10 cabbages every day and makes a profit of 400 shillings. Promoting that Mama Mboga economically does not mean that if you add 10 cabbages, then she sells 20 cabbages, that you are promoting her economically. Because a few factors come in. I'll just tell you two. Factor number one, those people she is depending on to purchase her cabbages, have you increased their purchasing power? So if you have not increased their purchasing power, then it means the 10 additional cabbages are going to rot there. For me, I think what we need to do is to look at Mama Mboga when she makes a profit of 400 shillings. Where does it go? When she go home, where does that 400 shillings go? So you find that she goes home, she is supposed to part with some of that money for medical care. She is supposed to part with that money for school fees for children. She is supposed to part with that money for electricity tokens. And my reasoning how to promote this mama mboga economically is to create an environment where these areas where this 400 shillings is going can be controlled by the government. So if you have 400 shillings and you spend 50 shillings on medical care, can the government provide that medical care at a cheaper cost? So instead of spending your 50 shillings, then you spend 10 shillings. If it is electricity, you spend 40 shillings. Can the government provide cheaper electricity? Then instead of spending 40 shillings, you spend 20. As in, if it is school fees, can the government subsidize education? So instead of spending your 100 shillings on school fees, you spend 40 shillings. So if the government helps you to save out of your 400, you save 200, then you are able to promote your economic development at a personal level without depending on handouts. Yeah. And I think the reason why I'm saying there is no solution so far, it is because nobody is talking about how to help Kenyans promote themselves economically. The government can itself generate income instead of relying on taxation. But also, the government should also not think that they are existing in isolation. A good government thinks globally, then you act locally. So if you see like the issues of drought that are ravaging our country, this is all about climate change. So any government must be able to address the issues of climate change, environmental management, and so on. Yeah.
Wow. So much and quality conversation that we continue to have with you. Would like to engage you further in these discussions and the debates, local and global, as you said, that are affecting our people and in a big way. Your parting shots.
Well, my parting shot is that now we are in an electioneering period, and I think Kenyans need to listen keenly the messages that they are receiving, dissect them, and see whether they are realistic and practical. However, as professionals, we are always ready for any political leader to come and consult with us, and we can assist in packaging, for example, political parties' manifestos, government policies, because this country belongs to all of us, and we are willing to assist in our best way possible. Yeah.
You've mentioned, just as we wind up, that professionals and key players in our country are willing and ready to be engaged. So most of them shy away from coming out and perhaps even telling us whom they support. Are you supporting any particular presidential candidate?
Yeah, I think for me, my mind is made up because I have been involved in elections in this country. Probably I have voted for 4 times. And one of the candidates who have always been there is Raila Amolo Odinga. I know I have never voted for him because probably by then he was not my best candidate, but I have also followed him politically and what he has done for this country. And looking at the political environment for now, my mind is very clear that I am going to vote for Raila Amolo Odinga. And this is a candidate I would actually want to assist in planning and coming up with policies for his government. Thank you.
So thank you for watching and keep it here.
Deckers Group, the branding gurus.
Hapa ni kazi tu.
Candidates Hub, the home of 2022 aspirants.